All right, so as the storm over the cash stashed at the President's farm continues, opposition parties in Parliament are calling for more accountability from Cyril Ramaphosa. It's been a long-standing issue that parties say there's no parliamentary committee to keep a watch over the President's doing. Well, this afternoon, the matter was once again raised during a debate on the budget of Parliament. Our reporter, Lindsay Dentlinger, has been following the story. She joins us from our Cape Town studio. Hi there, Lindsay. So we saw yesterday some oppositions coming out, having their say about the farm gate issue. That's what I'm calling it. Dollar gate is what other people are calling it. But what did opposition parties say today? The EFF seemed to be siding with the UDM.
So we learned today that several parties have already written to the Speaker suggesting how they think Parliament should be handling this issue. As you can imagine, Sally, coming right off the back of the Zondo Commission of Inquiry and what was pointed out there, the lapses on the part of Parliament for not conducting proper oversight and possibly could have prevented possibly state capture if they were doing their job properly. Parliament now obviously treading on eggshells, not want to be found wanting, and this matter particularly now, besides the politics which is evidently at play when it comes to the opposition parties, as you can imagine, Parliament saying that the President needs to come and account, and they've used this opportunity with Parliament debating this afternoon the budget of the legislature for the next year to again raise this issue that they do time and time again, the fact that there's no portfolio committee to keep a watch, particularly over the budget of the President. We know that the President will be in Parliament on Thursday to table his budget, but today opposition parties saying what has emerged in recent days involving the President more than ever speaks to the need for there to be an oversight committee, particularly over the Presidency, and to have better mechanisms in place to have the President answer their questions and not just wait for that once a term occasion when he comes to answer prepared questions in the House. But the EFF taking it one step further, saying they want the President gone. Here's the EFF and the DA expressing their views on this particular matter. Sally.
Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa must step down. He's a money launderer and he's a criminal. And he must step down, and it will come for him. He will never have peace in this House. I thank you.
We should act with speed to demand answers from President Ramaphosa regarding the millions of rands that were found on his property. Questions about how this much money was allowed to be stored on a farm, how a suspect accused of theft was dealt with outside of the criminal justice system, and whether SARS is aware of this money are questions which should be coming from this House.
I think also another big issue that came up was Parliament's response to the state capture report. And am I right in guessing that the fact that two of the Gupta brothers have been arrested in Dubai, widely viewed as architects of state capture, would have made some waves today in Parliament?
Well, to take it back a little bit, Sally, you will recall that before there was the Zondo Commission of Inquiry, there was the ESCOM inquiry in Parliament. And with the exception of SAA board chairperson at the time, Dudu Myeni, her refusal to come to Parliament to account, the only people who did not come to that inquiry when they were called or subpoenaed were, in fact, those Gupta brothers that have now been arrested. And while no specific reference was made today about their arrest, there has been this push over the last few weeks, certainly, for Parliament to be more proactive in dealing with that report, in dealing with those implicated in that report, especially in terms of the code of conduct for MPs and for ministers. Today, the DA, Saviwe Garube, who you've just heard in that clip, again saying that she didn't feel that Cedric Froelich, the chair of chairpersons in the House, should be allowed to continue presiding over parliamentary proceedings until the committees tasked with his job have dealt with his position as far as him being implicated in these reports. And they've also been pushing for Parliament to start acting, to do what they can and not to wait until the fifth and final report is before the House. But the Speaker saying that Parliament had already started working. We know their Legal Services Division is starting to work and highlight the parts where Parliament could not only take action, Sally, against those implicated, but also look at where Parliament was found wanting by the Commission of Inquiry in terms of conducting its oversight, and how Parliament as an institution can strengthen the mechanisms and strengthen the way they conduct oversight and do their work. But the Speaker today is saying that we couldn't jump the gun on this matter until all the reports have been finalised and tabled by the President, but giving the House the assurance that work is being done, and also in reference to the issue of the President saying that political parties had put their correspondence to her. She is applying her mind to it, but that we shouldn't muddy the waters, and for there to be parallel processes in regard to this matter involving the theft on the President's farm, because he has already indicated that he will be cooperating with law enforcement authorities. But here's the Speaker responding to some of the criticisms in this debate this afternoon.
The President has also indicated that he is ready to cooperate with the law enforcement agencies. So whatever it is that we do at the end of it all, we must not have parallel processes running. But also there shouldn't be a stampede, because once there's a stampede, in Xhosa we say uzaibuda. I don't know how to, maybe Somyo can translate that. I don't know, can interpret uzaibuda. What does this mean? You'll Buddha it, you'll mess it up, Honorable Kwahong.
In another matter, the head of the Special Investigating Unit was, I think, appearing before the Standing Committee on Public Accounts today. What was that all about?
And also the Minister in the Presidency, Sally, Bondli Gungubele, it stems back to December last year when the Standing Committee of Public Accounts took issue with the fact that SIU reports were, to quote the chairperson, gathering dust in the Presidency, and that they weren't keeping a close watch on whether departments were actually holding those, fingered in those reports, accountable. And it has been a long time coming over the last few months. Bondli Gungubele admitting that there was previously no system in place to deal with this kind of matter. But today, before that same committee, with officials from the Presidency explaining to the Standing Committee of Public Accounts what they have done since that first engagement some months ago to put a system in place that will look at how, to make sure rather that those implicated are held accountable. We heard that there are several loopholes in the system, that civil servants often resign before action can get taken against them, or to avoid a disciplinary, and that there's no way of tracking that they don't crop up again in another department having dodged sanction of some form because they've been implicated in these reports. But today we saw the outline of a system that will be put in place to deal specifically with these matters, and the head of the SIU, Andy Mutibi, said he's quite heartened by this relationship that is now formed with the Presidency and the system that is now in the process of being put in place to make sure that there's actually action taken on those reports that he submits to the Presidency. And here's Andy Mutibi from the SIU.
It will be very important also to interface this process with the AGSA and the overall work of AGSA, where all of this work that the team is doing from the Presidency could then inform the audit plans and the improvement plans that needs to be done. As the team indicates that this is evolving, I'm sure it will evolve to a stage where we will include the systemic recommendations. I know at the moment it's focusing on the 3, but the inclusion of the systemic recommendations will be advised going forward, because that's part of the area which sees the improvements of the overall administration.
So quite a lot going on in Parliament today. Thank you very much for that update. That's our reporter in Cape Town, Lindsay Dentlinger.